We're on a mission from God.
And now for something completely different.
Let's get ready to rumble! Yeah, baby, yeah!
This is Pastor Jolly John Lekumsky from St. Paul's Lutheran Church in New Athens, Illinois, and Trinity Lutheran Church in Darmstadt, Illinois.
And I'm Pastor Matt Youngblood Clark from Ascension Lutheran Church in picturesque South St. Louis.
And this is
Wrestling with the Basics.
Yeah, well, so we are now 2 weeks. We are 2 weeks into the Easter season. You shared with us this beautiful text from Paul's preaching of the resurrection, which apparently that's a big thing to preach. That's what we're doing. That's what he did. But I have to give kind of a warning before we go any further.
Uh-oh.
Okay. So here's the thing, and I'm speaking hypothetically here.
Okay.
All right, hypothetically.
Okay.
If you found out, and again, remember this is hypothetical. Hypothetically. If you found out that the Easter Bunny wasn't real, and I'm not saying he's not real, because after all, we all enjoyed the chocolate and the eggs from just a couple of weeks ago.
We did have some eggs, yeah.
We did have. Yeah, you actually did it even the week before. The Easter Bunny came to your place twice, didn't he?
Yeah. We had our Easter egg hunt at Ascension, and that was fantastic.
But I'm sure he came back the Easter week too, and didn't you bring some things for you and the kids and stuff?
Yeah. I still can't figure out the egg and bunny connection, but whatever. I'm not complaining if I get chocolate.
No. But hypothetically speaking,
yes.
if you found out that there wasn't an Easter Bunny, how would you feel?
Well, a little bummed.
Well, yeah, and you might feel like you've been deceived
all these years.
Yeah. So here's why I'm saying that, because I'm going to take one of your favorite resurrection Bible passages, and I'm going to show you that maybe it didn't say what you thought it said.
Oh, say it ain't so, John.
Well, I'm just trying to get people prepared here, because I don't want to get angry phone calls and stuff like that. We want to be honest. We want to be honest about what the Word of God actually says. And so this is going to be kind of please, we're not trying to burst your bubble about the Easter Bunny or anything, or about this text either, but just listen to us before you get all angry and upset, because I know I'd get upset.
Hear you out. So this isn't just hypothetical. Yeah. This is...
Well, no, this isn't. The Easter Bunny thing, that was all hypothetical.
And I'm sure glad it was only hypothetical.
Well, because there's probably people out there that believe in the Easter Bunny, and we don't want to cause them any shock or, stress?
No, we do not want Wrestling with the Basics to be to blame for that. The demise of the Easter Bunny. That's
at
Christmas, what we want to be known for.
You don't mess with Santa Claus either, do you?
No,
because otherwise there's going to be parents talking to you, isn't there? Yeah. After church.
There's kids watching,
if you mess
listening
with Santa,
to this
that's
show.
right. So anyway, here, read if you would. This is the classic passage. We know it. We love it. It comes up whenever we start talking about Easter and the resurrection from the dead. In fact, that's why I'm talking about it. It was actually the Old Testament lesson for those of you using the one-year lectionary. Could you read, if you would, please, Job chapter 19, and where is it at? Oh, right there, verse 23.
I don't see any Easter Bunny in these verses. What's going on here?
Well, just read verse 23.
Okay, all right. Let me try to sort this out. Okay. Verse 23. Job says, "Oh, that my words were written. Oh, that they were inscribed in a book. Oh, that with an iron pen and lead they were engraved in the rock forever. For I know that my Redeemer lives, and at the last he will stand upon the earth. And after my skin has been thus destroyed, yet in my flesh I shall see God, whom I shall see for myself, and my eyes behold, and not another. How my heart faints within me."
Read, if you would, please, verse 26 again.
"And after my skin has been thus destroyed, yet in my flesh I shall see God."
Yet in my flesh. This is, of course, I think, the classic Old Testament proof text for the resurrection of the body.
Sure.
Right?
Everyone loves this verse, John. Why are you got to mess with this verse?
So I'll tell you a story. So do you remember the old days when it used to be Jewish hospital?
Oh, yeah. Okay,
yeah.
sure.
Now it's Barnes
Yeah, here's
something.
Barnes is Jewish. I think they just kind of.
But I think even now, I even think the Jewish thing is out of it. There.
BJC.
I don't know. Whatever.
Okay.
But when it was just Jewish hospital, not Barnes Jewish or whatever. I remember I was visiting somebody over there, and on their wall.
Boy, you've been around a while, haven't you?
I have been around a while.
Oh
That's
my
right.
goodness.
I think it was like a pterodactyl I was visiting in the hospital. They'd broken a wing. And so anyway, they have Job 19, verse 26 on the wall there.
Okay. All right.
And I'll be willing to bet you it's not there anymore. It's a sad thing, you know. That was a religious hospital. Not so much anymore, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I doubt that there's any Bible passages at all on any of those hospital walls. But at this point, there was one, and it said, and after my skin has been dust destroyed, not in my flesh I shall see God.
What?
Yes, not in my
What's
flesh.
going on?
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, well, you know, I just some strange Jewish translation. And then I thought, well, wait a second. I mean, it is their Bible. It is their language. If anybody knows how to translate it,
The Hebrew, yeah.
they would know.
Sure.
So I was doing some study on this because it kind of troubled me. Where did that come from? And I found out, and I hope again this doesn't disturb people, that the Hebrew there is really, really obscure, and that you can't absolutely say that it says "yet in my flesh." Those words "yet" are not actually in the Hebrew. And so it's just so now I don't get flack. So
John.
people don't think this is some crazy idea that I came up with. From the Concordia Self-Study Commentary, which we all know and love, it begins by saying the Hebrew text in its present form presents some difficulties. Kyle Dalich. Did you have to study Kyle Dalich when you were in the seminary?
No.
No, you didn't.
I do. I don't.
Oh my goodness.
Unless I forgot.
Well, no, I think you would
forgive me
remember
if
it.
I.
So did they have a commentary that was recommended to you when
Well,
you
I
were
mean,
in
we had
St.
lots
Louis?
of different commentaries
For
but-
the Old Testament, though? Was there any?
Well, I don't know if there was like a specific one,
Okay.
but yeah.
Because when I went to Spring Wayne, as it was called, started in Springfield, moved to Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
The official Old Testament, you had to buy this, was Kyle Dalich. Wrote an 1860s classic Lutheran interpretation of the Old Testament.
So one volume.
Oh, no. This was like, I don't know, 100 volumes. I can't remember. There was a bunch of them, though. It wasn't
So
one.
it was expensive.
It was very, very
Yeah,
expensive.
I would have remembered buying something that
would.
expensive.
I bet you guys didn't have to get Lenski for the New Testament either, did you?
But I know Lenski's, but
You know
no, it was
about
not.
Lenski.
No, it's not required.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, when I went, Kyle Dalich for the Old Testament, Lenski for the New Testament. No wonder we're in the shape we are today.
Oh, for crying.
I'm sorry. But anyway, Kyle Dalich. And so we're not talking liberals here. That's what I'm trying to point out. This is not some liberal, crazy,
not
moderate.
hippie talk, no.
No. We cannot in this speech find that the hope of a bodily recovery is expressed. See, the problem is what the text simply says is, my flesh totally destroyed, my skin I shall see. So you have to put some words in there, and I'm not denying that you could put in the words if what's it say there, and yet in my flesh I will see. Chrysostom, by the way, I was the first guy that came up with that interpretation. I will be honest and admit that Luther also kind of translates it in that way. So there's a lot of good fathers that back that up. But literally in the Hebrew, you don't know. Does he say that in the flesh or without the flesh, I'm going to see the Lord? So that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like poking fun at the Easter Bunny, and I don't mean to do that, but I think when we deal with the Scripture, we have to be honest and say no more than what the Scripture says, okay? Now, the thing is, see, a liberal would jump on that and say, well, there you go. There's no resurrection from the dead, and that's not at all what we're saying. No, there's some really beautiful things in the text, but I think we need to be honest and say you have to put a couple words in there to get the idea that in my flesh I will see.
So, I'm looking at the Lutheran Study Bible.
Yeah,
here.
okay, yeah.
And so this is Augustine. So we're going back to the 300s.
Again.
This is way back there. And he says, no doubt these words were a prophecy of the resurrection of the flesh.
Yeah.
So it's a little debated.
It
sounds like to me.
it is. And that's what I'm simply saying, because I'm afraid somebody out there is going to be holding on to this text, and then somebody's going to say, well, actually, if you look in the Hebrew, and then they're going to be blown away. And no, we don't want you to be blown away like if you found out that there wasn't any Easter bunny, which again is just a hypothetical situation. No, because actually this is still a super great text, and it really doesn't make any difference in terms of the resurrection of the dead, because how do we know there's a resurrection from the dead?
Because of Jesus.
Yep.
He's raised from the dead.
Same thing. Did you see Paul? He's quoting a lot of stuff, wasn't he? He quotes Psalms. Do you ever see him quote Job?
No, not in his sermon. No,
because Paul knows that if you're a Hebrew, you're going to say, hey, wait a second. It doesn't specifically say that. I mean, it might say that. You could imply that it says it, but it doesn't specifically say that. And that's why I love Paul. They stick with the passages that there's no debate. He will not see corruption. No argument there. No doubt that's exactly. So how could that be? It can't be David, because David, he saw corruption. We know. But it was a prophecy about Jesus Christ. But now let's look at the text, because actually I think it ends up being kind of a really neat text when you realize what's going on here.
Yeah.
So go back and read the beginning.
Well, and I think that, just real quick, I think the beautiful thing is too, I mean, this is not the only text in the Bible that talks about the resurrection of the body.
No.
Far from it. I mean, that's all over the place. Old Testament, but especially New Testament. So, I mean, there's plenty of evidence for that. So it's not like we're pinning our hopes on that resurrection, the second coming, on this text from Job. No, plenty of other places.
In fact, that's my point. We pin our hopes on Jesus Christ, who rose from the grave on the third day. And if you don't have Jesus rising from the grave, then everything's going to be a little obscure. I'm not saying that these people didn't believe in a life hereafter. In fact, we're going to prove that. Job remarkably believes, despite everything that he suffered, God is still with him, and he will with his eyes. But no, that's why you got to have Jesus, because it kind of fills the whole picture out. Now there's no question. Now there's no doubt. We know for sure what it's all about, because Christ rose from the grave. Well, go ahead. Start from the beginning here.
Okay, verse 23. That my words were written, that they were inscribed in a book, that they were written in iron, pen, and lead. They were engraved in the rock forever.
Okay. So what's the problem? What's going on here, you think, Matt?
Well, I mean, at this point in Job's life, he's suffering.
Yes.
I think when you see everything that took place, the Lord allows Satan to afflict Job in this case, in this specific situation. And if you remember, he lost his children, he lost his goods, he lost even his health. So, when I read that, I think that Job, everything, all the temporal things have been stripped away from him. So he's looking, it seems like, for something permanent, that's something that could be written and inscribed, engraved, and if there's something that's going to be permanent, this is it.
And so let's even up the ante a little more. So not only has he lost everything, but what has his friends come and said to him?
Well, he says, they say it's your fault.
Yeah.
You must have done something wrong, right, Job, in order for all this to happen. It's kind of a logical conclusion, right? You do something bad's going to happen to you.
So we've got this situation where he has totally been stripped. His so-called friends have come and only heaped more guilt and trial upon him. Since we were talking about skin and flesh, you know what happened to his flesh, don't you?
Oh, yeah, sore so much. He's scraping them just to get some relief, and on this ash heap. Oh,
so
terrible.
You got leprosy, whatever. The flesh is probably actually sloughing off of him. So when he talks about when I'm without my flesh, he probably knows what he's talking about, because he's losing it even there. But you're right. In the midst of this totally hopeless situation, he says, we got to put this down. We need to record this. We got to record it some way where it'll be there permanently, iron and stone and whatever, because the time is going to come and you're going to find out you guys were wrong. See, you thought this was all because God hated me and I was being punished by the Lord, but you wait. The time will come and you will see the truth. And then we get to the truth, which is, again, verse 26.
And after my skin has been thus destroyed...
I'm sorry, verse 25. Oh, my God. How can I miss 25?
For I know that my Redeemer lives, and at last he shall stand upon the earth.
So the source of his confidence is what?
His Redeemer lives.
Yeah. And tell us about the word Redeemer, because is that not a precious word, Matt?
Well, yeah. I mean, here in the Old Testament, we see the kinsman redeemer.
Oh, yes.
So we have the book of Ruth, for instance, where there's someone in the family, there's someone who's your kin, and they redeem you. They buy you back out of slavery, whatever the case might be.
Yeah, in this case,
are out
she's a
of debt.
widow. She's got
Yeah.
nobody to take care of us because in that culture, if you don't have a husband, really, you have no legal rights. You have no property. You can own property even.
Yeah. And Boaz comes really as this redeemer to buy her, as this hero, really.
Yeah.
To rescue. And so in terms of Jesus, right, my redeemer, the one who lives, that he's rescued us, bought us back from death and from the devil and from our own sin.
Which is his own language, right? I come not to be served, but to serve and to give my life as a
ransom.
Which is the Redeemer, which is the Redeemer word. So we've got this guy who's literally lost everything, and yet he still believes that in time he's going to have a Redeemer.
Yes.
And now here's the other neat thing. See, the Hebrew is really hard here. Because the translation here, for I know my Redeemer lives, and at the last he will stand upon the earth. The Hebrew word there, stand, could also mean to arise, which kind of has... when I hear stand, I have the idea of a guy coming who's in judgment. He's coming in judgment. But the idea of arise would go back to the story you just told. So I'm a poor widow. I have no one to help me. And, oh, look... arises my Redeemer. He comes there. He comes to save me, which is obviously that. Well, let me see. I got a Bible passage about arise. Let's see if I can find it here real quick, Matt. Where is it? Oh, because the poor are plundered, because the needy groan, I will now arise, says the Lord. I will place him in the safety for which he belongs. And it's the same word that's translated here for to stand. Or how about this one? Who rises? Say, who stands up for me against the wicked? Who stands up for me against evildoers? And of course, the answer is my
Redeemer. Someone who
does.
stand up for us. That's great. I like that. Against the wicked, against the evildoers, and against Satan.
And here's the other neat thing. Where does he stand according to that translation?
My Redeemer lives, and unless he will stand upon the earth.
Now, here's the neat. And again, by the way, I just learned this, Matt. I'm 40 years in the ministry, and I'm learning this stuff, which shows you that apparently an old dog can...
learn new tricks.
New tricks.
Yeah.
Because the word there is dust. It's dust.
Where it says earth,
Yeah.
it's dust.
It's dust. In fact, it's the same word from Genesis where...
Yeah. Out of the dust of the ground. Yeah.
Yeah.
Forms Adam.
And from dust you've come, and...
to dust you shall return.
So that's the image. So, yeah, we're going to die. We're going to be dust. Job knows that. At this point, he probably figures that's his end. And of course, we know that that isn't what happens. But in his mind, he figures, yeah, I've lost everything. The only thing left for me is to die. But he said, even if that's happened, even if I'm just returned to the dust, which I will sooner or later, my Redeemer is going to live, and he's going to arise, and he'll be right with me in the dust, and then he is going to deliver me. Now the tension there is he saying he will deliver me and I will see him in my flesh, or is he saying, no, even when my flesh is gone and my skin has been destroyed, no, he's still going to be alive and he will still deliver me. And we need to be honest, that's not perfectly clear in the Hebrew, but the next verse is very perfectly clear, verse 27, if you want to read that.
All right. Whom I shall see for myself, and my eyes shall behold, and not another. How my heart faints within me.
So, please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that there is not a resurrection of the dead. And in fact, I would think that when he says, I will see with my eyes, that is a really firm affirmation that we're not talking about some kind of spiritualized existence, some kind of ghostly existence. That there's certainly going to be something very, very concrete and very real. Because else, how could you see him? How could you see him if he's not there? And how could you see him if you didn't have eyes to see him? But I'm just arguing we need to be really careful with this business about yet in my flesh, because that yet in my that we're sticking in there, and so did Chrysostom and Luther and Augustine, and that may not be exactly what Job had in mind. But now here's a thought. Maybe Job didn't have that in mind because of his circumstances and his situation. But maybe Augustine and Chrysostom and Luther were right to put it in there, because what did they know that Job didn't know?
Well, they've got the full story. So they've got Jesus Christ risen with his flesh, right, and his skin.
And we definitely know that Jesus is my
Redeemer.
So, yeah, I suppose, in light of what we know from the celebration of Easter, that it is possible for a man to be dead and real dead, so dead that, even a Roman centurion would lay in the tomb and not have any qualms about it. Because you understand, if you're a Roman centurion and the guy's not dead, then you're going to be hanging on the cross. So when you let a guy off the cross, you make darn sure he's dead. In fact, we break their legs normally to make sure they're dead. So in light of that, yeah, maybe we can say what we say and how we translate it. But you just need to know that Job was wrestling with that. And so anyway, I'll finally get to what I think is comforting in this, is we got a lot of people right now that are wrestling with it too. My goodness, Matt. Why is it that whenever Lent comes, we all of a sudden have people dying?
Yeah.
Although if you think about it, it's a great time to die. For the people, because you got the hope of the resurrection. Not so much for us as pastors.
Yeah.
I've got a gal right now when I get done here. I'm going to go visit her in the hospital, and the doctors have kind of told the family it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, sure.
But that's okay. We could actually lose everything we have in this life. Our best of friends could come and tell us, well, you're getting punished because God hates you. And all we need to do is remember what Job says. No, my Redeemer lives. Okay, you write that down somewhere, because in the end, you're going to find out that you were all wrong about this. No, my Redeemer lives, and I'm going to see him with my own eyes. Any thoughts or comments? You've worked with this text in the past,
Well,
I'm sure.
I think that when everything else is stripped away in life, and for Job it is. I mean, everything is gone. Family, his possessions, his own health. When everything is stripped away, what is it that still matters?
Yeah.
Exactly what you said, John. My Redeemer lives. And that's what matters. That's what matters. For that person who's in hospice care, that's all that matters. Their possessions don't matter anymore. Their health doesn't even matter because it's gone. What matters is my Redeemer lives.
Boy, and that's such a great insight, Matt. Thank you for making that, because we got to realize we're all going to be like Job. You're not going to avoid that. You're going to be in the situation where literally everything you have, but again, your Redeemer lives. Going back to this business about what was it saying? That they were inscribed in a book with an iron pen and lead. They were engraved in the rock forever. It occurred to me that on my tombstone, I have engraved in the rock. I hope it lasts forever. I don't know if there's any guarantee on tombstones or not, though.
Yeah, if after 300 years, I think you get your money back if it wears off.
Is that
yes.
okay? Well, I won't be around here to...
Well, yeah, that's the only problem.
You could do that, couldn't you? You could give like a lifetime guarantee on those things, because they'll be dead. So what? But on my tombstone, it says, "My grace is sufficient for you." And as I drove by that gravestone, which also, of course, has my first wife laying underneath it or beside it, and yet I thought, you look at that, and you're like Job. It's all gone. There's nothing there. The dust that Job refers to, that's what's there. Yeah. And yet, no, that word is true. His grace was sufficient for my wife, for me, for my new wife, Lynn. And indeed, as it says, my Redeemer lives. And that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. And I love how personal that is.
Yeah.
Because my grace is sufficient for you, John, for you, Lynn, and here my Redeemer lives. Not just a Redeemer lives or the Redeemer lives even, but my Redeemer lives. And he's come for each one of us to redeem each one of us from death.
Matt, I tell you what, thank you very much, because that is the perfect way to conclude this, isn't it? So and he says, and not another. You caught that
and
phrase?
not another. Yeah.
And that's the point.
Specific.
I'm here. I'm dying. Everything's being stripped away from me. And ultimately it is because I am a sinner. I think God kind of confronts Job and says, you're not as good as you think you are, because you're forgetting you're a creature. That's what you've always been. And yet still, you're right. Yeah. My Redeemer, the sinful dust ending in death person I am, and yet... yeah, he is my Redeemer. Matt, any final comments?
Oh, good. No, I appreciate you sharing this, John. Especially, I think of the hymn that this is connected to, that beautiful, I know that my Redeemer lives, and how we sing that over and over again in that hymn. And we can belt out that refrain, because we can be just as certain as Job that my Redeemer lives.
Thank you so much, Matt. Blessed Easter season to all of you. We'll see you next week on
Wrestling with the Basics.